So my name is Rebecca Sun, and I graduated class of 2003 from Trinity. I majored in biology and English with a minor in psychology. Well, as you guys know, Duke doesn't have a journalism major, but I found myself really spending all of my extracurricular time at the Chronicle. So I wrote for the Chronicle and was an editor there, as well as for Tower View, which was our monthly news magazine. After Duke, I applied to grad school. And so I got my master's in journalism at NYU, which led to an internship at Sports Illustrated in New York, which led to working there for 8 years. And then in 2012, I wanted to move back to California, which is where I'm from. And so I left SI and got a job here at the Hollywood Reporter, and I've been here for almost 3.5 years now. When I was interviewing with sort of the campus recruiter, they asked me what Time Inc. publications I read in order to sort of get an idea of where they might be able to find an internship for me. And I honestly answered, I said Time, People, Entertainment Weekly, and Sports Illustrated, but, SI really was, ironically, the one that I felt like I might be the least suited for. But that's the one where, that's the outlet I got an interview with. And, I think it worked out. I think that being a good journalist, first and foremost, is about being a quick learner and being somebody who's really able to process new information and turn it around into something that's understandable for readers. And so if you possess that skill, you can technically cover anything. So I was always passionate about entertainment and media. I definitely grew up loving films and especially television as just an art form, and this important part of what informs your upbringing and your experience. And so that was something that I had always sort of kept up with purely as a fan. So when it was time for me to consider where I wanted to live and moving back to California for personal reasons, it worked out that I was sort of like, okay, here's this perfect opportunity for me to sort of finally pursue my passions in entertainment. The fact that the Hollywood Reporter is, I think the best entertainment publication in the country, it helped. I think that, the resume and the credibility that I built at SI helped me get that interview here at THR. And so from there, it was an even better marriage, I think, of my personal pre-existing passions and sort of, the skills that I had developed as a journalist. And even when I got here, there was a lot more new things to learn. Having a lot of varied experiences is nice. Sometimes there are some schools, right, like USC or UCLA or NYU, which have a much more linear path, or as linear as an entertainment path can possibly be. I think what Duke has as an advantage is the fact that, we don't have like film majors, or at least we didn't when I was there. We really had to study, different subjects and be immersed in these different fields. And I think that really helps when it comes to media and entertainment, because at the essence of those things is media and entertainment really reflect the world. And so you're telling stories about other people's industries, about other people's lives, and the more actual experience you have with that, I think the more you're benefited. What I learned about covering Hollywood is that it is a tight-knit town, and so a lot of your job is really just going out and making friends with people, whether it's people at the studios, people at the agencies, artists, business people, reps, executives, it's that pure art of networking. Grabbing lunch with a different person, grabbing coffee, drinks with them, and just kind of getting to know them, because that's how we get our news. That's how we get our own scoops. That's how we can tell our colleagues, hey, like, I heard that this is happening. You might want to look into that. It's a nice combination of sort of people working, as well as sort of the traditional bread and butter of just like, asking questions and writing stories. Our school really connects us to a great number of very accomplished people. And so when you get used to sort of being around people like that, I think you start to understand that sort of level of poise and professionalism and authority that you need in order to sort of go out there and just introduce yourself to people, start talking to them, and build a relationship. So it took some getting used to, but it's all right. It's interesting. The Hollywood Reporter specifically, happens to be pretty unique in the sense that there are a lot of women who work here, and we're led by an Asian American woman. That said, the industry definitely is, male dominated and white dominated. And so you see that it's sort of a trickle down effect in terms of the coverage. We end up covering a lot of projects that are, where you look at the covers and you're like, whoa, there isn't a lot of diversity represented. How much of that is a responsibility of, the studios and the networks who are making these things, and how much of it is our responsibility as journalists to make sure that we are not overlooking something that just because it's not like right in front of us, right front and center. So I definitely am personally very passionate about representation and just being responsible towards, telling stories, deserving stories that are perhaps underserved. And certainly I think that we've made really good strides, specifically where it comes to women in entertainment. We have an annual franchise called Women in Entertainment, where we salute 100 of the most impactful and influential women in this industry. We are pretty on top of the coverage of just the numbers, making sure that we're, people are informed of where things lie right now. The fact that the percentage of female directors is kind of remains in the single digits, and that narrows the more you go up the pipeline, right? And I think that this year, especially with the sort of increased focus on racial diversity in Hollywood because of Oscars So White and things like that, I think that it served as a wake-up call to everybody in the industry, journalists included, to take a look at these problems. The questions of opportunity in casting, the questions of opportunity in hiring, and sort of pointing those things out. Honestly, as a female and a minority journalist, I want to cover these things. At the same time, there's this question: will you become pigeonholed when you do that? Will people think, oh, you're just writing about this because you're Asian? That's the only reason you care about this. I had to struggle with or wrestle with sometimes those accusations or sort of insinuations that, trust me, you only care about this because you're Asian. People who aren't Asian don't care about this sort of thing. But you know what? I have to have confidence that I'm a journalist. I have a good story sense. This is important, and this is why we do what we do. We want to tell people what we think is important, what we think they should feel is important. Audiences are responding to more diverse content, and so it's something that we want to continue to cover, and we want to do it in a thoughtful way and in kind of not like a knee-jerk way. We know the numbers at Duke, right? And it's funny because I'm from the Bay Area, and when I decided to go to Duke, I had some friends in high school, from my high school, who were like, "Are you sure you want to go to Duke? It's not very diverse there." And for me, that was diversity. I wanted to go to the South. I wanted to meet people and make friends with classmates who had grown up in a totally different part of the United States than I did. And I was some people's first Asian friend. This was like a dozen years ago, so I think things are probably different for students who are at Duke now. But I think that it's important to be a presence. So yeah, like Hollywood, there's still, of course, there's a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of, hiring people, like that whole comedy scene is people who graduated from Harvard and worked for, the Harvard comedy publication there. But guess what? Like, I graduated from Duke and I'm not a white man. And I'm going to take advantage of that Duke platform that being a Duke alumni gives me. And I'm going to use it because I know that I can use it for good. I know the importance of expanding people's perspectives. it's not just because of my race or my gender. It's because of my individual perspective, which is informed by those things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I think that also gave me more motivation when I was sort of forcing myself to learn how to be a better networker. Like I knew, like, you know what, you have to be in this, you have to get in the game.
Yeah.
You know, you have to represent. It's a responsibility some people may not choose to take, but I want to assume that responsibility.